Quite often we make these beautiful bowls, and sometimes the wood isn't as elegant as we'd like it to be. So sometimes it needs a little bit more enhancement. How do we do that enhancement? So today what we're going to do is use the Sorby spiraling and texturing tool to create something a little bit different with some spirals and textures in, on and around the bowl, just to give it that extra enhancement. So that's going to be the outer edge of the bowl. So that's going to be our spiraled area there. So what I'm doing now, I'm setting this tool rest in a position so that the top of this base plate is approximately on center height of the lathe. Okay? And then when I've set the height up, what I'm going to do is set the position so the tool rest is approximately 35 millimeters gap between the surface of the wood that we're going to spiral and the position of the tool rest. This allows the tool to tip to be able to work. We've got strike line on the top of the shaft, and we've got numbers 0 to 4 going both ways. Okay, this allows us to do a right spiral and a left spiral. Here I've got the strike line set up on number 1 to the right, so that means the tool is held. When it's sat flat, the cutter is pitched at a predetermined angle. That will allow the spiral to go over the wood at a predetermined angle. With spiraling, we need to have a slower speed, so we'll reduce the speed. On this sort of diameter, we're looking at around 400 RPM. So we go in, we allow the cutter to touch the surface without placing any forward pressure. We then start to lift up the handle, listen for the sound. Take it out and check. Now what we see here is the strike lines that the cutter created.
And that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
So now we can go back into those grooves. The cutter will drop back into those grooves there. We lift up. Now we can apply a little bit of forward pressure. Work from side to side. Just allowing the teeth to scratch a little bit deeper on each pass, up to the depth of the teeth. Turn it off every now and again to check.
Yeah, that looks nice.
Yep. It doesn't matter how far we're going across here, because what we're going to be doing is removing that material to create our bowl shape. So we can continue that as much as we need to ensure that we're getting the spiral that we want. So we can go back in, drop it in, again. So there's our spiraled rim already created.
Great.
So now we can create our bowl shape to lead into there to leave our rim, and we can put the foot on and ready to do some decorating using the other cutters. So now we can start to form the shape, back up to turning speed, start to create the shape. Reposition the tool rest. Now we've roughly got the shape that we're looking for. We can prepare the foot. What I've done there, I've undercut that a little bit, so what I'm going to do is clean that up with the parting tool. And that will give us a pronounced rim as opposed to that being part of it. I'm going to just give it a slight lift, which makes it stand out even more. So it's all about your own design. The spiraling texturing system allows you to experiment. So that now gives us that raised border and allows us to see the detail of the spiral underneath as well as on the sides. So now we've got our smooth surface. What we can do now is enhance that. As you can see, the wood is fairly plain. So we can enhance that by using the texturing wheel from the spiraling system. So unlike the spiraling system that uses the tool rest section, so it sits flat, so it can be used on bowls or even on long spindles, so you maintain the same spiral all the way down. The texturing tool is completely freehand, so you can determine what speed you run the lathe, what height you run the tool rest, where the cutter hits the wood, what angle you hold the cutter at, how many times you go across the surface. Each one of those will give you a slight variation of the pattern. I'm just going to do one simple pattern on the middle of here and then a pattern on the bottom of the foot just to enhance the look of this elegant bowl. So touch the surface. Try and maintain a perpendicular action towards the surface of the wood. Don't come in at an angle, otherwise any grain will make it skip. So what we're trying to do is maintain a fairly perpendicular surface across there. Try and keep an even surface. There we have a beautiful pattern. Now we can highlight that enhance that further by using the very point of our parting tool to define the very outer limits of the design. So there's a definite boundary between the smooth area that we created with the gouge and the textured area that we created with the texture tool. Makes it just pop out straight away. So we'll do something similar with the base, just so that we've got an added feature of the foot, so the foot isn't just something to hold it into the jaws with, but it's also a feature for the recipient to look at and a feature for them to see. Because we're working near the centre of the wood, the lathe is rotating a lot slower, so you're relying on the peripheral speed of the rotation. So what we need to do is work from the outside, get the momentum going, in and back out. So again, touch the surface, you can hear the sound. You may have a little bit of torn grain or something where you've been working, so you can just use them shavings just to take off any of the broken bits without flattening over, which you would do if you use sandpaper. And again, what we're going to do, we're going to highlight that with the parting tool, so it enhances it again. On the outer edge, and again in the middle. So we have our decorated bowl.
If you want to use a finish, what would you use?
I would just use, especially with sycamore, I normally use a Danish oil, but any oil would be perfect. I was always recommended to use oil. You can't really use wax because that would get collected in the texture area and lose the actual feel of the piece. So an oil finish will allow you to enhance it, because the oil will soak into the textured area because you've broken the surface, whereas it will just soak gently into the polished areas. So again, it will enhance the texture and the spiraling even more.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we've turned the bowl round. We've now done the outside. We've finished all our detailing on the outside. What we're going to do now is just skim this across, hollow it out, and then we'll add a little bit of texture and an extra feature on the inside as well. So it just gives the bowl, wherever you look, there's always something to look at, always something to touch, always something to feel. So we'll just hollow this out. Keeping the same speed, working inside. It's exactly the same as we did earlier on. And again, I'm using the parting tool, just a sharp corner to bring that out, bring it to life. And again, any broken fibres, just use some shavings just to polish it up. And also helps to burnish the smooth area as well. So that should make it stand out a little bit more. There we have our very usual bowl shape, but with extra enhancements, with a raised spiraled rim, textured sides, decorated bottom, and a nice section in the centre there, giving extra enhancement to the look of the bowl. So that's the Robert Sorby spiraling and texturing system on how to use to get the best from just a general bowl. Hope you enjoyed the tuition. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask at the end of the video. Thank you.